forwarded on to her, so she will be touching on some of your things, but there will be time for questions and answers. Okay?
Yeah, so I think I'll leave a large chunk of time for us to really deal with questions. That seems to be when I have done neighborhood presentations in the past. The group likes to ask lots of questions, so I'll keep my bit short for you, and then we can get to your questions. But I'm the city traffic engineer here at Shoreline. I've been here for about 2 years. Previously, before being at the city Shoreline, I was at King County Metro for a couple of years, and previous to that was at the Washington State DOT here in Shoreline. I'm a Shoreline resident, live in Michigan Valley, so I've been wanting to be here at the city for a long time, and I'm fulfilling my dream as a city traffic engineer. So really loving the city and loving my job and loving working with all of you. So it's really great to be here. Thank you all for coming. So I guess I'll start out. I know that we'll tackle some topics like speed and safety, but one of the things I told Diane that I would talk about was the annual traffic report, which I do every year. So every year we do a review of collision data in the city, and that's how we prioritize all of our resources. So we keep track of all of the collisions that are reported throughout the city, and every year we do a comprehensive analysis to identify hotspots and trends and things like that. So this year we've done the same, and collisions have continued to decrease in the city. We've been tracking pretty consistently since about 2008, and the trend has been down. Last year was a little bit of a spike, but this year they're back down again. Overall collisions. Injury collisions are also down in comparison to previous years, so that's all good news. That said, pedestrian and bike collisions are actually slightly increasing, and that's probably not a surprise to a lot of you. It's probably kind of something you're feeling when you're out walking around. It's on trend with the regional traffic statistics nationwide as well. So not just Shoreline, but just across the line, we're seeing increases in pedestrian and bicycle collisions. A lot of that could be because there's more people that are choosing to bike and walk to work, walk their kids to school, that sort of thing. So some of those numbers could be, partly in comparison to the amount of pedestrian and bike activity. Every year, the Washington State DOT does a pretty comprehensive survey of bike and pedestrian counts, and every year they've seen a pretty marked increase. I think it's up something like, it's in my report here, but 20-some% within the last 8 years, I want to say. So pretty significant increase when you're talking about people biking and walking to work. So important stuff to consider. The other important thing to note is that the percentage of injury collisions overall in the city, which is low in comparison to a lot of other cities in the region, but the percentage of it is highly represented by pedestrian and bicyclists. So we're seeing roughly 50% of the injury collisions involve a pedestrian or a bike. So that's also concerning. They're the most vulnerable transportation users, obviously. People in cars are a little more protected. And vehicle standards are getting more stringent too. People own cars that are safer now. So that's another large reason why there's less representation of injury collisions for people that are actually in the cars and more that are actually biking and walking in terms of the user percentage. So those are some important things we're going to focus on as we move into the next year. Those pedestrian and bicycle locations, education for drivers. Main contributing circumstance, and we're seeing, or one of the main contributing circumstances of these collisions continues to be driver distraction. So people maybe on phones or doing some other things, getting a little too busy as they're going about their day. So that's going to continue to be an emphasis for our enforcement folks, looking for people on cell phones, educating young drivers about cell phones while driving. So all kind of important trends that we're seeing and that we have seen region-wide. We're pretty much kind of fitting the same trend lines as others in the region. That said, our collision rate in Shoreline is quite a bit lower than other cities of similar size, so that's good news. Our total collisions are pretty low overall in comparison to other cities of similar size. Same with injury collisions. So while we always have room for improvement, doing pretty well overall, and I think it shows that, council schools and the staff schools is to really focus on safety as a priority. So after all that analysis is done, we do identify hotspots, if you will, for collision locations, and then we focus resources on those and recommend action. So I'll pass these around. These are just a few maps that are help to represent sort of where collisions are happening and what kind. 3 different maps: bike and pedestrian in the last 5 years, injury collisions in the last 3 years, and then total collisions in the last 3 years. So these are interesting for folks to look at.
This is a January to December.
This is, yeah, so it'll be from January 1st, generally the 2 maps will be January 1st, 2013 through 2015 data, and the pedestrian and bike will range of 5-year spans.
Are those up on the website, Kendra?
They are. You guys are all getting a preview to this data, so I'll be presenting this next Monday to council. It's linked on the agenda currently, so if you go to the city council website, look at the agenda, it's linked as item B, I want to say. You can find it on the agenda over there. And I'll also note that we are doing some web page updates to our traffic services web page, and it'll be linked there as well. Hope to accomplish that within the next month or so. So that data will all be available, and I typically send this to folks just to give them, if people are concerned about collisions or safety or what can be done in their particular location. This is a good reference point because it shows you where we have troubles in shoreline and where we need to focus the very limited resources that we have. So. The other data that's probably worth noting, we collect speed data for most of the main arterials around the city of Shoreline. Present those on a map as well. So the map is a report, and I can pass this out as well, but unfortunately it can print in color, so it's not very useful. But it shows speed differential from the 85th percentile speed, which is the portion of traffic that is traveling at or below 85% of traffic is traveling at or below this speed that's measured. So, for example, if you had 85% of traffic traveling at or below 40 miles per hour on Meridian, the differential speed map will show that the differential speed is 5 miles per hour, and so that would be highlighted a certain color on this map and used for enforcement through the city.
So that means people are going either 5 miles an hour over or
Right.
under the speed limit?
Over. We highlight the over, yeah, for the map. So that's another data piece that we use throughout the coming year to focus traffic enforcement efforts. So probably something
That's
we need to
easy. The speed limit rating is 30.
35.
35.
Yeah, it's 35. So that's another piece of data in there. There's pedestrian and bike data in the annual traffic report, and just a general summary of some of the stuff I just talked about, as well as some other interesting facts. So if you want to learn more about the collision data or analysis process, I would encourage you to definitely check the city website, and I can send links to anybody that wants to learn more. So that's my recap of what I've been working on for the last month or two. I think we wanted to touch on generally speeding in the neighborhood and neighborhood traffic safety. So I don't know if you wanted me to just go ahead and address some of the questions that were emailed to me today, or if...
I think, go ahead. What were you going to say, Cynthia? I was going to say yes, that might be a good start, because it might pick up on it. What do you think, Cynthia?
Yeah.
Unless you have something structured that you prefer to go through, I would say go ahead. There were some folks that couldn't attend the meeting and emailed questions, so she'll start with that, and then it might trigger some questions that you all have.
I'm quite sure it will. Yeah, so typically when I do neighborhood meetings like this, it's been, I'll tell a little bit about what we do in my department, and then usually get some questions fired at me, and I direct them in the appropriate channel. But I think to start it off, probably worth mentioning our neighborhood traffic safety program. For those that live on residential streets, we have what's called the Neighborhood Traffic Safety Program that residents can take advantage of if they're concerned about speeding or passing traffic, or trying to get traffic calming measures like speed humps or traffic circles in their neighborhood. It's a process that we work through with residents 7 residents be involved in the process. So that it's representing their actual neighborhood, not just one person's possibly incorrect assumption or observation of what's going on. So we work with neighborhoods to get out education and enforcement information, so utilizing things like radar speed carts or the Shoreline Police to get the messages out. We do educational flyers to schools, for example, if there are schools in the neighborhood. And then the third component is the engineering treatments like traffic circles or speed humps. Those only come in after we have failed to reduce speeds or cut through traffic volumes. And it's worth noting that we only implement the phase 3, or phase 2, the engineering treatments, after it's met certain criteria. The street has met certain criteria, so there has to be a certain traffic volume and speeding to occur for us to move into that phase of treatment.
Do you have any sort of benefit on this?
I can send that to everybody electronically.
Would you?
Yeah.
That would be great. We'd love to send that back to
Absolutely.
everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's been a real popular program that folks are taking advantage of, and it's been pretty successful, not only in the phase 1, but we have gotten to install a few treatments over on the other side of the city this last year. So it's a great thing to take advantage of. I think it's probably, before I start answering questions, worth noting too that our group has been working, and when I say our group, it's me and 2 other staff, has been working with Meridian Park Elementary to increase safety for kids. So I know that's been a large area of concern for a lot of you folks that live in the neighborhood, particularly along 175th and that Wallingford crossing, speeding, that sort of thing. So I've been working with the Meridian Park Elementary School to implement some rapid flashing beacons on 175th for the folks that are crossing at Wallingford. So we know that we're not going to stop people from crossing there. We've tried, and the school has tried. And you know, frankly, it's not necessarily a bad place for people to cross if the roadway was set up a little differently. In the meantime, we worked out what we think between the school and the city would be a good treatment, which is rapid flashing beacons. And so what those are, you might have seen them in other jurisdictions. They're kind of a new technique that the industry is shifting to, but they're warning signs that have pedestrians on them, and you push a button and it strobes a sort of rapid light. They're pretty attention-getting. They work pretty well, and they're better than nothing. We know people are crossing there, so the school recognizes and the city recognizes that it's probably time to at least try to increase the safety, even though we don't love people crossing there. We prefer them to go to the signal, but.
You installed some signs there this last month.
Yes.
People getting ticketed.
Yeah. But unfortunately, people are still crossing, so.
Yeah.
The goal is to keep them at bay until we can get those signs up.
Got it.
But in the meantime, yeah, we're working on some safety improvements, modest safety improvements here in the near future. In the long term, so the city applied for grant funding to improve this 175th Street corridor, and we just got notice within the last week or 2 that we received funding for the preliminary design. So we'll be moving forward with that this year. That means improvements to 175th, the sidewalks, improved pedestrian infrastructure. You can probably see that there's tiny little narrow shoulders that kids walk along every day, and that freaks everybody out, including me. And so we'll be making some improvements to that part of the roadway, which is going to be really great.
Do you know the time frame for that work?
So the design will start probably within the next year. In terms of implementation, I am not clear on that just yet. I can send you some additional information. It's not my project. It will be managed by our engineering group. But I expect that, part of it's funded by our transportation impact fee program. So we do have some funding backing for this project, which is great in terms of being able to actually get it done. So I'll follow up with you on that.
Can I add one thing, and that is that everything that she's talking about that she'll send out as an email or
I'll send to you, yeah.
she'll send to the, I will ask that you send it to the
Absolutely.
Meridian Park Neighborhood Association thing, and then we will redistribute it
Yep.
to all of you. We'll add your emails to it, so if you're not already there, you should get it.
So, just to interrupt, if we got the email notice about this meeting, we're on the email
Correct.
list.
If you got the email notice about this meeting, you will be on the Gmail account list that you will receive. And if you didn't, we'll make sure that your address gets added. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's really exciting news for all you that live in the neighborhood and for all of us that use this corridor. It's obviously in pretty desperate need of some help, and the city really relies heavily on grant funding, and so to be awarded additional grant funding is really quite fantastic. We've built Aurora mostly almost 100% grant funding, so the city's been very successful. We've got a great staff that has pursued grant funding and very good at it. So that's pretty exciting news. I think probably we're diving into your questions now. So
Those are some of them. Do you have the email?
I do.
that
Yeah, I do. So there are quite a few. I have worked with Callie Stewart, who I don't see here, and I think all these folks are gonna be gone tonight. So she was concerned specifically about the 175th issues, and I have talked to her about that a little bit. It's been probably since May or June.
So why was that crosswalk taken out in the first place?
Oh,
You guys
good
spent
question.
all this money,
Good question.
put the damn flashing lights in, and then you pulled it out. And now we're gonna put flashing lights back in again?
Yeah, so
Seems kinda silly to me.
it's,
Are you talking about the one at 175th?
175th and Wall,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, a couple of things. One, the flashing lights, I believe were paid for by a Safe Routes to School grant, so not something that the city paid for necessarily.
Right.
Independent lights were shown to be pretty ineffective in terms of traffic engineering studies. So they get covered with grime, they aren't very visible to folks that are driving. They are nearly impossible to maintain. In fact, a lot of the companies, including the one that we used for these and the ones down there, 155, went out of business. So we can't.
So that's good to know, because nobody ever passed that information
Yeah.
along to the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And my kids all went to school there.
Yeah.
Not that they ever used that crosswalk,
Sure.
because we live south of there, but.
Sure. Yeah, so it's, that's been, brought up by a lot of parents at Parkwood as well, and, certainly understand that frustration, but they're not effective, they were terrible to maintain, and the companies went out of business, so we
Good to know.
can't even maintain them anymore.
That's perfect.
Without any kind of additional treatment, striking the crosswalk there is really not a safe treatment. Federal studies advise engineers to not strike roadway configurations with 4 lanes like that, because it causes them to kind of double blind effect, if
Yep.
you will. One car stops, the next car doesn't see. So it's not recommended, but if you have a treatment like the rapid flashing beacons, which have been shown to be quite effective and are very easy to maintain, then it can make sense. So that's what we're gonna be doing. It's relatively low cost treatment, it's all above ground, it's solar, so I think it should be a relatively efficient treatment for us to use there.
When did the signs, the no crossing signs get installed? Do you have information on that?
I wanna say it was probably, I put the work order in. I think it was probably early this year. If I had to hazard a guess, October.
Yeah. The reason I ask is I cross there 5 times a week,
Mm.
afternoon and evening, and I've been in conversation with people before I knew about the study that was happening.
Yeah.
Never saw those signs until one day I was actually done crossing, and a police officer whipped through, ticketing 2 people that were currently crossing. Pretty unreasonable,
Mm.
all of them, none of them had seen it. He's like,
Yeah.
it's been up for 30 days, been waiting, this is the 31st day, I'm ticketing you today.
Gotcha.
And I was like, I've never seen that, like, normally traffic revisions, like an orange flag or something that would just, but it was just kind of shocking to me.
So my understanding with the police was
Yeah.
that they were going to warn people first.
Yeah. Just all 3 just ticketed immediately.
Okay, you were a pedestrian or a driver? This is the
Pedestrian.
175th?
Pedestrian.
And
Yeah. Yeah, and the reason I knew about it is I was getting in my car, and I almost got hit by the cop because he pulled into Wallingford so quickly. Pulled a quick U-turn and then parked and blocked the intersection, jumped out to catch the 3 people that were crossing the street.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty, and so I walked up to see what was happening, asked a couple questions, and he moved me
Get out
aside
of the
real
way.
quickly. Yeah,
Mind your own
yeah,
business.
the PR skills were not there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
You know,
Police staff.
without a crosswalk there.
Yeah.
That school zone is illegal. All the tickets that they have written coming down the hill, if they ever file a class action lawsuit, they will win because the school zone is 300 feet from either direction of the crosswalk.
You're right, yeah.
And it's
you're right.
not, and it's not an active school zone because you have a fence and a curb, and a,
That doesn't matter, actually.
well, but that's one of the legal things that they'll say when it's an active school zone. Well, there's a fence and a
Yeah.
sidewalk on the other side of the fence. So it's not an active school zone because a kid can't run out there to chase a ball. So if they ever
That's
press
not what it's
that,
necessarily protecting against, though. The school zone is for folks walking to and from school, so anytime there's child activity.
but you
or-
have to have, read state law.
No, I know, it has to be within 300 feet of the crosswalk. I
And there's no
understand.
crosswalk.
And there used to be a crosswalk
Yes.
there. The splashing school zone signs were placed 300 feet from that
Exactly.
crosswalk, and then the crosswalk was
So
there.
that
You're
school
right
zone is
about that.
illegal.
For now, but
Well-
we're gonna reinstate it.
But
so.
why they took that, you know, I've lived there 45 years.
Mhm.
They had a huge beacon across
Yeah.
there. And the reason they took that out is because the principal from the school before,
Mhm.
the one that's there now, asked the city to take it out because she didn't want to have a patrol person. All my kids went to school there, all my grandkids went there, now my great-grandkids are going there. So how, if they put a little sign up that says you can't cross there, you can't put that there. That's not legal.
It is legal, so.
It's a corner.
It's, right, which is why we have to put the sign up to keep people from crossing. It would otherwise be illegal to
Okay,
cross.
while we're talking about this, coming down the hill right here at Ashworth,
Mhm.
there's a cement barrier goes across the street, across the divider.
Mhm.
There's one section out.
Mhm.
I've been up here 4 times. Why is that out? I've almost hit a lady on a motorcycle twice. I've seen a couple people lock up.
Mhm.
Why is that one out?
I know
And they
that-
said, well, maybe it's because of wheelchair.
I know there's a work order to replace that curb that's missing.
Well, it's been years. It's been
I was only
recent.
informed about it probably 2 months ago, so
That
at
from
that,
me being up here.
yeah, so at that point, we issued a work order and our
Yeah.
crews are gonna get to it when they can. We have a small maintenance crew,
Because-
they've been dealing with lots of wind stuff
Because
this year.
people go across there
Yeah,
and
no,
that's a
that'll be
very dangerous
remedied,
place.
yeah, it's not a.
It's
we
not an
don't-
intentional gap to.
It's
or a
unintentional,
crosswalk,
yeah, it's
unintentional.
not intentional, I believe there are no crossing signs there currently.
But when I came up to one time, they thought maybe that there was somebody in a wheelchair had requested it to be taken out. And I'm thinking, you gotta be kidding me. You talk about putting the city at liable, you
Yeah.
know.
Like,
Yeah, I'm not clear, I'm pretty sure that there's no crossing signs there, so I don't. think
Well,
that-
there is one that says no pedestrian crossing.
Yeah, I don't think that was the intention.
Yeah.
I think it was, the curb should be there and we did issue a work order to reinstall it, so.
I was gonna say, I think it's been missing ever since we moved to Shoreline, and that was
Well, a long time,
in 2003. At the time we moved here, that was still a recognized bicycle route. So I always assumed it was there, or that it wasn't there, to allow bicycles to cross there,
Well,
whether
that's-
it's dangerous or not.
Well-
But since the interurban trail has gone in, I kinda figured they would have blocked it up, and they haven't, so.
I have a question regarding a long-term plan. Have they decided yet what kind, the scope of work is gonna be for the improvements on the road, or is that what the planning grant's for, to determine?
For the 175th Street
Mhm.
work. So we do have a rough scope of work in the Transportation Master Plan, which essentially calls for 2 lanes in each direction like it is now, but a center turn lane as well at the intersections. So it might kind of shrink and expand out just to provide turning space at the intersections itself, given the fact that there's kind of rock walls and some other topography to work with along some of the sections, but
turn lanes at what locations on 175?
hasn't been decided yet exactly, yeah. We'll work with the community on that, so that will be part of the 10% design, is having some open houses and getting resident feedback on where they think that turn lanes make sense. In addition, that center turn lane area can be utilized for things like pedestrian refuge islands. So for example, at Wallingford, my plan would be to have some overhead flashing, rapid flashing beacons with pedestrian activated push buttons and the waiting space in the middle for extra safety for the pedestrians. pedestrians, so. Just one of the things you can do when you have that space in the middle, so that's the general plan for the roadway. In terms of sidewalks, I believe that the planning group has slated for, the planted buffer to separate between the roadway and the sidewalk, as well as an extra wide sidewalk on the south side, I believe. So, and a standard sidewalk on the north side, is my understanding. So, still planted buffer in between to separate between the pedestrians and cars a little bit. That's sort of the preliminary study plan. That was what was proposed in the transportation master plan. It'll get refined much further from that during the design process, the environmental process, and there will be outreach.
I'm just curious, how far out does that look in terms?
The outreach process?
No, for that
Design.
long-term planning, because one of my concerns is just the amount of
Oh, I
traffic that's
see.
gonna be traveling.
2035 is the traffic forecast? Yeah,
And they think 2 lanes each direction
Yeah,
is sufficient to
definitely.
handle the traffic?
definitely. Yeah, I have no doubt.
Any
Yeah.
conversation about photo enforced traffic?
That's a great
Speeding
question.
tickets? That should be
So
pretty-
that was something Kelly brought up in her email as well. Council has historically not been on board with any photo enforcement in the city. I don't know that they're fully informed on school zone speed limit cameras. They function much differently than intersection red light running cameras. They have a different focus and intention. I myself am pretty fond of them. I think they're great. There's not really any harm done, right, in getting people to slow down. So the red light cameras can cause some unintended consequences in that people will end up getting rear-end collisions and that sort of thing. Speed zone cameras, not really a lot of unintended consequences there. You just-
I just, there's one like on Greenwood, and,
Yeah.
you know, that's a
Yeah,
route I
no,
drive almost
they're
every
very
day.
effective.
And they work really well.
They do. I would be fully open to trying that. It's something we put in front of council before, and even, Mayor Roberts actually visited Callie and the school down here at 175th when we were talking about this issue last year.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, the bug's been put in their ear, but I would certainly encourage y'all to tell your council that.
Yeah, what's the best way to get that in front of them to kind of know that the desire from the community is great and that it's something we like, what's the best way to get that?
Come to
message
council
out?
meetings and make comments,
Okay.
public comments.
That's probably the best way,
Perfect.
Yeah.
Cool.
yeah.
And sorry, when you referred to the Greenwood one, are you speaking of
It's
the
yellow.
elementary school that's south of 140, it's down by?
132nd.
132nd or
Correct.
something?
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, again, pretty similar circumstances,
Yes.
double two-lane
Yeah.
road, traffic moves pretty quickly on that,
Yeah.
but
I
like when
slowed
those,
down
yep,
for
when those things are
it.
going.
And I
it
slowed down
locks
for that
down
one
the-
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the speed of the traffic here is at least half of the conversation
Yeah.
with the pedestrians that are crossing, right? Because whether or not it's, you know, someone going off the road and running, just someone that is actually following the law versus someone maybe crossing in a not so safe place.
Yeah.
You ultimately get that speed down to 20 versus.
Yeah, big difference.
Consistently 35 to 45 miles an hour while those lights are flashing, you know, just, people just don't slow down,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yes, I encourage you to go talk to council about, the school zone cameras. I think they're a great tool. Particularly, probably pretty useful in this location, so, absolutely. So, yeah, and then along those lines, Seattle's used them, pretty frequently, in similar locations with
Should
a
be
lot of
good data
success.
for it, too.
There is, yeah, there is great data for it. It's just the whole discussion of police state stuff, you know, so
Right.
people, some folks don't like being on.
Would grant money be eligible for something like that?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. There are safe roads to school grants as well as, some other federal grants that are available for things like that.
Great, thanks.
So as far as crosswalk safety goes, I know that, you know, we have talked a lot about this Meridian Park intersection instead of Fifth and Meridian, but Meridian has a number of bus stops, especially at 163rd and Meridian. It's where Einstein kids get picked up, and they cross both ways on that very poorly striped, very poorly lit intersection. My son was actually one of those bicycle dots on the map there, on his bicycle. So, and then 2 weeks after that, the other gal got hit in the intersection. I was one of the first responders there. It's a crappy intersection. Kids, the high school kids get on the bus a block further north, but they also use that intersection to cross. So that's a sticky point for me. I'd really like to see that intersection because it's a bus stop to and from school, kids get dropped off there, and they're using it. It's dark outside again, because we got stupid daylight savings time, so,
We can start on that.
yeah. So anyway, that's one crosswalk that I have a real particular interest in improving
Yeah.
somehow or another, whether we put the red flags up, but really the striping, and you should see what they just did in Seattle on 85th and 65th, as you head west toward Chill Shoal. Beautiful job. They've really done a great job with it. They're, you know, about the same kind of traffic levels as Meridian gets. They did a great job with them. They're well lit, they're well striped.
The crosswalks
The
themselves?
crosswalks themselves,
Okay.
obvious. So that's a great place to go take a look at.
Where is it, 85th and what?
85th and,
On the way out
on
to
the-
Euro
yeah,
Beach or something.
yeah, so if you're going down
35th.
35th, yeah, go to the west, yeah, so,
Okay, great.
or Chill Shoal, so.
I would love to see it. I am very happy to take a look at that intersection and, implement some striping changes.
Yeah, because some of the kids that run across there, and I mean, it's spooky, I mean,
So I'll note that,
There's a lot of trees, it makes it very dark.
Understood.
yeah.
And everybody's dressed in black from head to
Yeah, it
toe.
is, it's a big problem, that
That's
gal that
another-
got hit there was
That's
nothing but
another thing
black.
I noticed, by the way. I grew up in a different part of the country, and we were taught that cars were bigger than you were, and I didn't grow up in an environment with striped crosswalks, so we were taught to look for cars, whereas people who, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but people who grow up on the West Coast kind of get used to knowing that when you're in a crosswalk, you're safe. It's really important to teach kids that you have to look for cars.
yeah, that is definitely an important message. And part of why traffic engineers are so cautious about using crosswalk markings, because we don't want people getting a false sense of security.
Mhm.
That is a real risk. But I will definitely take a look at that
Yeah.
intersection. One thing worth noting, along the lines of those red flags that you were recommending, if you